All right, so let's get started. So I'd like to ask Tony Andronas, candidate and current sheriff, to come on up.
Good evening. First and foremost, thank you to the party for throwing this together. Sorry about that. Thank you to see everybody here tonight. Very happy, familiar faces. I'm Tony Andronas. I'm your sheriff. Very humbled, very blessed to not have any opposition, as the chairwoman said. I'm in my finishing up my third, going into my fourth year as sheriff. I'm in my 30th year of law enforcement. I cut my teeth at the sheriff's office in the mid-90s, went and did some patrol work, and then came back. Was humbly appointed to chief deputy, replacing Jim D'Alessandro in the room. And then 3 years after that, I got to run for sheriff. With a 3-minute window, as many of you know, I could talk probably all night about what's going on. But we're doing good things at the sheriff's office. I'm very happy to say I think the office, the needle has moved. I have really good deputies around me, men and women. They make a difference. They really make a difference. They work very hard for the county. A few things that I wanted to do coming into the sheriff's office. I wanted to redo our policy and procedure manual. With the help of my management team, I'm happy to say the policy and procedure manual was updated. We wanted to update firearms. We carry firearms at the sheriff's office. We had some aging firearms, but there's a cost factor with that. So for 4 years, we put together a plan. I'm happy to say this 4th year, we updated our firearms. DARE program. When I took over, Chief and Sheriff Romano had 3 school districts, I think at the time, Chief, right? So we're up to 13 buildings. We're up to like 8 districts. So I'm not in the districts of Peters Township, Canamac, and Chartiers. And if anybody says why, they have programs established already. So we're very happy to say we're in 13 different buildings. I have 2.5 DARE officers. So I have a part-time officer that helps out, and I have 2 full-time DARE officers. Second Amendment, big push in when I was running. A lot of the other sheriffs had these satellite events. So that was something that I sat down with the commissioners and found the funding, and we were able to put together the satellite gun permit. That's where we dance around the county on weekends or evenings, and it's a convenience for folks to be able to make application if they're working during the day, like Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. The fleet, we were able to update our fleet, and that was with the fleet leasing program. So we're happy to say we have a lot of the new cars on the road. So I'll be available tonight. I'm available Monday through Friday. I'm available by phone. Stop up and see me at the office. We've done a lot of good things, and I'm very happy with where we pushed the needle, and I'm going to continue to do that in my next term. So thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Tony. Tony said, do I have to stay behind the podium? I said, no, Tony. And then I feel bad now. Yeah, it squeaks a little when you move, when you're too close to the speaker. So just be aware of that. That one off. That'll help too. All right. Next, I'd like to introduce Carrie Perrell. She is our current recorder of deeds, and she's running for re-election this year. Come on, Carrie.
Hi everyone, my name is Carrie Perrell. I am running for re-election to the Recorder of Deeds office. Thank you to the leadership of the WCRP for hosting this event, and to the voters for being here tonight to get to know the candidates. Though I am running unopposed, I do not take your vote for granted. I want to earn your support. So let me share with you a few of the improvements made to the Recorder of Deeds office in my first term. Before I list them, I want to thank my wonderful staff for their support in making changes, and I also want to thank the IT department personnel at the county, Landex, and Community Bank for their help. I institute a direct deposit of local realty transfer taxes for our school districts and municipalities, saving money on postage, paper, and ink, and resulting in improved bookkeeping. I had new computers installed for the public's use and for the office staff so that we can offer efficient and dependable service. We completed a historical pilot indexing project with the goal toward getting all deeds indexed, starting with the founding of our county in 1781. And I contracted with Landex to have an off-site backup server to increase protection of the Recorder of Deeds data. This is updated nightly and can be brought on site in the event of a cyber attack. While making these improvements, I have been mindful of being a good steward of the people's money. I restructured the bank accounts, keeping funds in interest-bearing accounts until they are ready to be dispersed. This practice, along with increased interest rates, has resulted in earned interest of $30,000 to $40,000 per year. I noted in the past the recorders averaged $400 to $500 per year in interest. As well as the improvements have not been paid for by tax dollars, but rather by commissions earned per state law on every deed recorded. Also, I have cut portions of my budget. On a personal note, I've had a variety of careers in my life. I was once a court reporter, then a stay-at-home mom, a cleaning business owner, a registered nurse, and a realtor. I am married to Eric Perrell, a realtor at Park Place Realty. He is an ordained Presbyterian minister who serves with the Washington Presbytery. We have 4 grown children. We enjoy spending time with them and their spouses, and one of our favorite things to do is escape rooms, although I give them the credit for solving the puzzles. We are an animal-loving family. We all have rescues, and cats and dogs, and we are expecting our first human grandbaby next month. We are very excited about that. Yes. I am honored to serve as an elected official. I would be grateful for your support in the primary and in the fall election. Feel free to call or stop by my office anytime if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Next, we're going to move on to our controller candidates, and so I'd like to ask Brenda Davis to come on up.
Good evening. Thank you all so much for coming out this evening, and happy Passover week to you. Thank you, Jesus. I'm Brenda Davis. I'm running for Washington County Controller. I'm a lifelong resident of Washington County. I grew up in Canton Township, and I graduated from Trinity High School. After high school, I went on to obtain my bachelor's degree in Public Service Administration and Criminal Justice Administration. And after college, I was involved in my community, which is here, the city of Washington, and it led me to run for public office. I ran for mayor in the city of Washington, and I ran against a 20-year incumbent. I was successful at winning in the city of Washington as mayor. So I did something that was unprecedented as well when I was mayor. And when I was mayor, I never raised the taxes in the city of Washington. And that is unheard of with your county buildings, your college, and your hospital. So I'm real proud that I was able to tighten the belts in the city of Washington to ensure that the taxpayers did not have to pay the consequences of bad decisions. So after leaving office as mayor, I went on further to obtain my master's degree from Duquesne University. And my master's degree is in business management. I'm a real estate investor. I've been investing in real estate for quite some years now with my fiance, Jimmy D'Alessandro. We have a rental business that we have, and we've been operating for many, many years now. I don't know if I told you that I live in the city of Washington now, and I have lived in the city since before I was mayor. There's not many people left in the city, unfortunately, but I gotta tell you, we're not moving anywhere. That's our homestead. So I've been with Jimmy D'Alessandro. I know your name's been mentioned a couple of times already tonight, honey, and I don't know why, but anyhow, Jimmy and I we're almost on 20 years together. So I could not do what I do every day if it wasn't for having a strong support system at home. And when I woke up the one morning not too long ago and I told Jimmy, I said, Jimmy, the Lord has called me to run for county controller. He said, fantastic. We're going to make sure you win. So at this point here, I feel that I have the experience, I have the education, I have the knowledge to bring to the controller's office that is desperately needed. Unfortunately, it's been under a Democratic control, and you all remember Mike Naney. He was there for 20 plus years. So we've been under that mentality for way too long. And it's time to change that office to have someone that is conservative, fiscally responsible, and is willing to dive in and do the hard work that it takes for the taxpayers here in the county. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Brenda. And if anybody yells out bingo halfway through the night, we won't think poorly of you. You can hear they're doing bingo back there in that corner there, so good thing we have our microphones. All right, next I'd like to ask Tony DeLost if he could come on up. Thank you, Tony.
Hello everyone, my name is Tony Jacob DeLost. I've lived in Washington County my whole life, and I've been a Republican since I was 18, 27 years now, and I'm running for Washington County Controller. I graduated from Cameron Millen, and after that I went to Indiana University of Pennsylvania, where I obtained my bachelor's degree in business management. Shortly after, I started a horse racing business called Shoetown Stables at the Meadows in Washington County here. Been racing horses off and on for 11 years now, and recently I've been elected to the Cameron Millen School Board. That was 2023. At the time, the school, Cameron Millen, was 5-4 Democrat. After the 2023 election, the Cameron Millen School Board turned 8-1 Republican. 5 of us went in, we took over the school and turned it around 8-1 Republican. Since that time, the one Democrat that was there decided to retire and left, and we brought in a 9th Republican on the Kennebec School Board. So we are now 9-0 Republican. That's the only school board I think we've ever done. At Kennebec Millen, we oversee a $117 million budget. The Washington County budget and Washington County government is $288 million. It's along par with the same numbers. And I think I'm ready to bring my talents to Washington County to be a controller. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. All right, next I'm going to ask for Pat Phillips to come on up. See, they're so good. They're already get themselves ready.
Obedience.
Yeah, thank you, Pat.
First and foremost, I want to thank all of you for being here because your vote is the most powerful thing that you have in your arsenal for governance. So thank you for being here. This shows that you really care. My name is Pat Phillips. I'm a 1990 graduate of Washington Jefferson College, and I'm very, very proud to be a president. Through my career, I've worked for 3 Fortune 500 companies, that being Mellon, PNC, and Fiserv. Not Pfizer, but Fiserv, a financial systems provider to all financial companies throughout the world. In my time, all I've basically done is audit, as well as be the regulatory compliance officer for Fiserv for about 10 years. I've also, my background has also enabled me to make sure that from tellers at PNC, tellers at Mellon, making sure that they're balanced and produce all of the reporting. I jokingly have said this in a couple of interviews, no more oobs, and an oob is an out of balance condition. What we need in this government is consistency. I think the Washington County government is turning that way slowly. I think that that's due to the stronger presence of Republican candidates winning over the past several years. That needs to continue. And I will assure you one thing, if I'm elected controller, I do not play with Democrats. I do not play in the sandbox with Democrats. I do not do that. I assure you that. I'm looking forward to the rest of this race with the candidates. Anytime, anywhere, anyone has any questions of me, my Facebook account is open. Send me a message. I will reply. I guarantee you I will reply. With that, I thank you for being here once again. I look forward to everyone, and tell your friends, tell everyone how vital it is to vote because this year is the year after a presidential election. The turnout is generally very low. But the more you get out, the more power you have. That power is vital. I thank you for being here once again. I'm Pat Phillips, and I really look forward to seeing you in Washington County when I'm out on the race. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. All right, and then I'd like to ask Heather Sheatler to come on up.
Thank you, Ashley. Good evening. I'd like to thank everyone for being here tonight on this important evening. I am Heather Sheatler. I'm the current Washington County Acting Controller, and I'm proud to be a candidate for this vital role in the upcoming primary. The role of controller is essential to ensuring transparency, accountability, and efficiency in how our county manages its finances. I take this responsibility seriously, and I am committed to serving our community with integrity, professionalism, and unwavering dedication. I've spent nearly 22 years working in the Controller's office, and there are no other candidates in this race with the depth of knowledge and experience that I bring in the Controller's office. I've overseen payroll, auditing, accounts payable, and I've worked closely with nearly every department in the county to ensure we remain fiscally responsible. Since stepping into the role of acting controller last October, my top priority has been protecting the interests of the Washington County taxpayers. I've faced many challenges during that time, and I haven't backed down. I've stayed focused on upholding the Pennsylvania Constitution and making decisions that are in the best interest of the residents of this county. Recently, I had to authorize legal action after a bank account was opened without my knowledge. This is an example of the difficult but necessary decisions I'm willing to make. I didn't take that step to be competitive with the administration, but because we have checks and balances for a reason. As your controller, I will always respect and uphold those principles. This office isn't just about numbers, it's about trust. It's about ensuring that public resources are used responsibly and that our residents have the confidence in how their tax dollars are being managed. Whether it's conducting audits, managing payments, or signing off on financial reports, the buck stops with the controller. I would be remiss in my role if I failed to make the constituents aware that one of the controller's duty includes performing and signing off on audits for all magisterial and row offices. It's important that the public can trust that these audits are free of potential conflicts of interest. Even if an audit is conducted by a third-party firm or a staff member, it is still the controller who bears the responsibility to sign and file it. I take that accountability seriously. I've built my career on fiscally conservative values and a commitment to public service, not politics. I will continue to put our community first and work hard every single day to safeguard taxpayer dollars with transparency and diligence. I'm proud to be a lifelong resident of Washington County. I'm a graduate of McGuffey High School and Penn Commercial Business School. Some may criticize my background, but no one can contest that 22 years of hands-on experience outweighs 4 years of any college campus. Today I live in Blaine Township with my husband and our 2 teenage sons. This is our home, and I will continue everything I can to make it a place where we can all thrive. I'm running to continue the work I've devoted my life to, serving the residents of Washington County with integrity, transparency, and professionalism. All right, well, I want to thank you everyone for your support, and I look forward to continuing to earn your trust and building a stronger, more transparent Washington County.
Thank you, Heather. All right, so that is your intro, the 3 minutes that you'll hear from all the candidates. And at this point, I'd like to ask all 4 controller candidates to please join us up on the stage. You can have a seat up there, and we're going to go through the question and answer period of tonight.
Lighting up on the stage.
That's great.
All right, thank you guys for popping up there. Thank you, Bruce, for the reminder of the light there. Yes, so this portion is going to be 5 pre-selected questions that we have chosen ahead of time. The candidates all get 1 minute to answer. The yellow card will go up when you have 15 seconds left. You will all be answering the same question, okay? And so we're going to start with Brenda Davis on the left, and she's just going to pass the microphone down. The second question will go to Tony. You'll answer that one first and pass. That way everybody has a chance to go first. Sorry, Pat, I'm like...
Good.
All right. So, our very first question of the night. What is your primary motivation in running for public office?
Good question. Thank you very much. I'm running for the office, and I have always ran for office for the community, to save the taxpayers money when it comes to wasteful spending. I've always done that in my political career. So I'm running for the office because I have the experience, I have the knowledge, and I have the education to bring it to the table for the taxpayers to be fiscally responsible, to save them money, and to then provide valuable insight to the county commissioners so they can then filter it back to you so they don't have to raise taxes. So I plan on being very fiscally responsible and to help the other offices provide ways in which they can be more responsible.
It's going to be the same question. Do you want me to repeat?
Same question. Why am I
Yeah.
running for public
Your
office?
primary motivation. Yes.
Primary motivation for public office. For this particular office, county controller, I have a specific reason for running for county controller here in Washington County. And I made this decision 2 years ago when I was running for school board, actually. What I saw in Washington County with the controller's office itself overall for many, many years was something that the people needed somebody they could believe in to actually tell them what was actually happening with their office, to operate the office as it's prescribed, and to use those tools at the office to work the office as it should be done. I didn't see that happening. I didn't think anybody else was looking at that and saying there was quality coming from there, so I thought it was time for a change, and that's why I decided to run for controller.
So I guess the main reason that I decided to run for controller, and I say this with a capital E, is efficiency. I think that the office needs, from bill payments to audits, it needs to be done efficient. Because when you run an efficient office, like I've done in the past with Mellon, with PNC, with Fiserv, you get soft dollar savings. And that means your budget is being maximized to its potential. With that budget in play and things aren't getting done on time, you are losing the value of your tax dollar. That's the primary reason I'm running for this office. It's, once again, just the capital E for efficiency in budget, and not to go over budget, and also to make sure that the other offices are doing the same. Thank you.
All right. I chose to run for the controller's office because, one, I am currently in the office. And yes, I have been in there for 22 years. I have, however, was not in charge for 22 years. So over those 22 years, I have seen things that need to improve, that need to change, that need to get better. But at the end of the day, we need checks and balances in place. And that is why I'm running to be your controller, so I continue to uphold those checks and balances for the taxpayers.
Thank you to each one of you. All right, Tony, you're going to take this next question first. Our second question is going to be, what are your qualifications to be the controller?
So the Washington County Controller's Office is a business admin position that is an electable position for the general public. And my qualifications to be in that position are that I do have a bachelor's degree in business management. I have started my own business for the last 11 years, self-starter, and I have been at the County McMillan School Board, which oversees the $117 million budget, same as that the county is 9 figures as well. And I'm ready to take those talents to the county.
Well, I think, as I was saying when I was introducing myself, this goes way back to when I got out of W&J and I started to work for Mellon Bank. And from day number one, as I started with customer service, worked my way into auditing tellers, and that just continued as I grew and got into bigger systems with databases, auditing what the database outputs, to where I got to 5-star, where I became the regulatory compliance officer, quality assurance and manager, and did that for over 15 years. As well as training, maintaining compliance within federal regulations from the Federal Register, dealing with the federal government, working in all of those aspects gives me the background to do this job.
I believe that I have the background to obviously handle this job because I've worked in different positions within the office over the last 22 years. I've worked in the payroll department, I've overseen the auditing and accounts payable side of it. Therefore, since I started right after college in this office, I feel that the 22 years of experience gives me what I need to run the office.
Thank you, each one of you, for that question. Number 3.
Hey, hold on.
Oh, gosh, Brenda, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. I know it's going real smoothly up here, so. What's the question again?
I'm
No.
sorry, that's my fault. The question is, what are your qualifications to
Thank
be the
you.
controller?
Qualifications, that's very, very important. When I was mayor, the city was under an audit every year, and I worked very closely with our auditors. When I was clerk of courts, and when I walked into the office, the Auditor General was already in the office. I spent 18 months with the State Auditor General going over the findings, results that came about from that audit. So not only did I go through with the AG's office, or the Auditor General, but I also communicated, and I say communicated, with the Controller's office. But I have to tell you that it was not Heather, I will give you credit for that, but under her boss at the time, the clerk of court's audit was 34 pages long. There is no audit that ever should be 34 pages long. If it is, someone should be fired. That didn't happen in the county. And the controller's office blew off that as if it was not a big deal. Now, I chose to take it very serious. I know my time's up and I have to stop, but I'm running because I have the qualifications, I have the experience and the knowledge that is needed to work with these other offices and audit them proficiently. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next question. What are your immediate plans? Sorry, Pat. What are your immediate plans to improve the office?
Well, I think with any time that there are audits involved, once again, I keep using the capital E word with efficiency. And there should be processes in place, but when you have those processes in place, that's always a continual thing that you have to do. You're always trying to improve what you've already improved upon as you move forward. So just for audits, making those payments, trying to increase the efficiency. That could be with technology, that could be with personnel, that could be with working with all of the other people in the row offices to create better efficiency in that office for the audits, for the payments, to make them the best and strongest that they could possibly be.
Can you repeat the question?
Absolutely. What are your immediate plans to improve the office?
My immediate plans to improve the office would be, we are currently upgrading 3 of our softwares. So that's what we're currently dealing with right now. So we are improving our procedures and processes through upgrading the software. So I would just continue to manage the software, make sure everything goes without issue.
I think you're next.
Oh, no, Brenda's
Yeah.
still sitting.
Okay.
Sorry.
I think you were first next. Yeah.
My plans for the office. What I found when I was mayor and the clerk of courts, sometimes a 20-year employee settles into the position and learns very quickly what the bare minimum of the job is to be done. And I've seen that time and time again. I'm not saying that anything about Heather, please don't take that the wrong way. I'm just saying that if there's 10 people in the office, there's 4 people that's working their tail off, and there's 6 of them that may not be. So first thing I plan on doing is improving the morale in the office. Because when I walked into the clerk of court's office, keep in mind, Frank Scandell pleaded guilty to embezzling $100,000. The morale in the office was terrible. They needed to know that they had a leader that they could trust, someone that was going to work alongside with them. Now, this controller's office has the same scenario with April Salone, with what happened to her. So the morale, I'm sure, needs to be boosted and lifted. And the first thing that pays the consequence is attention to detail. So I plan on paying attention to every detail within the office and improving customer service. Those are the two things I plan on doing up front, and evaluating the office, and then make the determinations as fit.
Thank you.
My first order of business in the Washington County Controller's Office is to basically backlog what was not checked over when the other controllers were in office, that I think everybody's been wondering about and looking forward to seeing something that says, hey, this has been checked over for you properly and everything's right for you. I think peace of mind of the voter is most important in the controller's office of all things, and I think that the controller's office itself and the person in that seat, the voters need to be able to look at that person and say, I know I'm getting the right answer and the honest answer from that person, and that's my first order of business.
Thank you. Okay, I got everybody, right?
Mhm.
Okay. All right, our fourth question. Do you commit to working full-time in your office?
Yes. I currently work full-time in my office every day. The controller's position is not an elected position that you can choose not to come to work. The controller's job itself is a full-time position. So yes, I will dedicate, just like I do now, to being there for the taxpayers and collecting that paycheck and earning that paycheck that I collect.
I didn't take my first vacation for the first year and a half when I was the clerk of courts. I was there every single day, 5 days a week. I was the first one there, and I walked out with my employees. So I can tell you, you can ask anybody in that courthouse, I was there every single day. I am a working elected official for you, and that was probably my problem, because I learned and I saw a lot of what was going on in Washington County. So I'm in the office every day, and I plan to be in the office every day. And if I have to, I won't take my first vacation for another year and a half to ensure that the taxpayers are getting every last penny out of me and the employees.
Could you repeat the question?
Yes. Do you commit to working full-time in your office?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. I've already looked into the school board aspect of it, and I will not be able to be on the school board. I'll have to switch over and just full-time be county controller, and that's perfectly fine with me. I understand that wholeheartedly. As far as everything else that I'm doing is business-wise, be shut off immediately and be dedicated completely to the controller's office. I'm used to working 168 hours in a week hourly and a paycheck. I can handle the county controller's office at 40 hours a week for sure. If they'd let me, I'd stay there over the weekend.
They will.
They'll let you. I've done it before.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
Well, I think we're probably going to have universal yeses across the board here. Just so you know, to run in this election, this is how much this actually means to me. I turned down a very lucrative consulting contract so I could run and dedicate my time to this, to trying to win this position. So absolutely 100% I would be there every single day, doing the job, working with the people, for the people, not to quote I think a famous document. But yeah, I would be there every single day, full time. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is our final pre-selected question, and then we're going to move on to the audience questions. And so the last question that's pre-selected, could you please address the main negative criticism that has impacted your campaign and your response to that criticism?
I haven't heard any. So I don't know if there's any negative out there or not. I mean, we've got 4 candidates that are up here running. I'm not one that runs a negative campaign. I've never ran a negative campaign. It's always about my record and not the criminal one. So I do know that some of you would like me to elaborate on that, and I certainly would love to, but we only have 1 minute. So if I get a chance to, I would love to take you all down memory lane and let you know.
Well, I get a minute to talk about it, right? Could you repeat the question again?
Yes. Could you please address the main negative criticism that has impacted your campaign and your response to that criticism.
Okay, the main criticism that I get when I talk about this is I've heard some people tell me you don't have the qualifications to be the Washington County Controller because you're not a forensic auditor or a CPA. And I basically have asked around plenty of other county controllers in other counties and other people who worked in the offices. I said, how stringent is this? You do third-party audits for the auditing. You report the audits. It's a business admin position. That's the best I can explain it to them.
I think, honestly, and I've done well over 1,200 doors already, and it's been remarkably positive. I expected a lot of people say, hey, just leave a card, run away, those types of things. But what I think, and I want to turn this to a positive instead of a negative, is I'm finding the people engaging. When they see the back of my card, I want them to ask me questions. I want them to ask about my background, my experience, what I can do and what I have done. And that's been really positive. So I have no negatives, and I hope I'm not cursing that moving forward, but it's been really fantastic so far.
I believe one of the negatives that I have to deal with is my predecessor, April Sloan. Some are concerned that I am or may be like her. Working under her for 3 years was the worst 3 years of my life. And I can assure you that I am nowhere near the type of individual she was, and exactly the exact opposite of her. So that's probably one of the things that I've heard, not a lot of, but if you had to pick one negative, I guess that's the one I would pick. But I can assure you that I am nothing like April Sloan.
Got everybody.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much for those 5 pre-selected questions. I'd like to ask Tony and Carrie if you could join us up on stage. I think we have enough seats. Over there.
Yeah.
Please watch his cables here. I don't want anybody to accidentally trip.
Space.
Thank you.
All right, I tried to flip through these questions ahead of time. I do see that some of them are actually directed toward more of the controller's office, which is fine. Tony and Carrie, if there's anything you'd like to add, maybe, kind of shape it toward your office and how you might answer that question as well. All right, our first question is, and we're going to start with Tony and just work our way down, I think. The first question is, how will you ensure that your office operates independently and is not influenced by political relationships or personal connections?
That could be tailored to my office, absolutely. As your sheriff, I felt 3 years ago when I ran, that office should be above reproach. And I candidly said at one of the events where I was talking, I didn't chase endorsements. I didn't want to have anybody that felt that they had me in their pocket. So I still feel that to the day. Yes.
Oh, sorry.
No good?
It's probably battery.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Everybody hear me now? So same question. I ran 4 years ago, and of course, for 30 years in law enforcement, I feel when you wear the uniform, you should be above reproach. When I ran as a candidate for sheriff, the candidate that I had opposite of me was getting endorsement after endorsement after endorsement after endorsement. And at one of the Q&A sessions that we had, I spoke very candidly that I'm not going to chase endorsements. If you like me and you support me, I will be your guy, I will be your sheriff, and I will handle the office above reproach. I still feel that way strongly today. My door's always open. I'm always open to criticism, whether it be by email, text message, or you come in and see me. But I can assure you, we will continue to operate our sheriff's office in the manner that is expected by the taxpayer. So, thank you.
Repeat that question again, because he went on a little bit, so I'm not real sure.
Sorry.
Sorry about that.
Just want to make sure I answer it.
Always technical fun.
Just
All
want to
right,
make
that
sure.
first question was, how will you ensure that your office operates independently and is not influenced by political relationships or personal connections?
Well, thank you for that question, because the controller's office has been political for years. And I'll give you a perfect example, the Frank Scandell. The county commissioners knew in February of that year that Frank had embezzled the money. But they waited until after the primary when I was challenging him, and it wasn't until July 17th that they actually came out, and Mike Namey came out with a press release that says that Frank Scandell was going to be charged with that. So there was also some politics that were being played when I was in the clerk of courts. So I will first and foremost ensure that there will be no politics that are played in that office. It will be strictly business, because I'm all about the business. So you're going to get that from the gate. There will be no politics playing. I will afford the opportunity to allow the elected officials in the other departments to provide their input on their audits. Because some of you may not know this, but unfortunately, my audit for the clerk of court's office was done 3 years. It's supposed to be done every year. They did 3 years in 1 year, and I was not even allowed to provide my input on their recommendations. So I found that appalling, because that showed you that you did not want to work with the other elected officials and the other offices to provide change agent ways. Oh, I'm sorry. Did it go off?
Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Question?
Yes, that question is, how will you ensure that your office operates independently and is not influenced by political relationships or personal connections?
First and foremost, I am self-funding my campaign to begin with. I am also, as far as petition signing collections, I had one other person help me out with 1 page worth of signatures, but all the other 459 of them I collected myself. And everything that I'm doing so far for the controller's office is going to be independent by me, for the people, really. I have no connection really to anybody as far as the offices are already concerned. That there's no connection there. That should be too much for me to look past to do the job properly.
Within any office that audits are going on, and I actually had a chance to sit and talk with Tom Flickinger about this, and this has been the case my whole career. Let's say someone here is the head of one department and someone else is coming in to audit them, but they're best friends. Maybe they're married. There's always guidelines in place, usually the same auditors. As the controller, I won't be doing the audit personally, but we also have to maintain those guidelines. So if it's as simple as something like, maybe you have Tom Flickinger sign off after it's reviewed. But I do agree with you, Brenda. 3 years, there should be an audit every single year. That is unacceptable. But let me close out what I'm saying with full disclosure, liability, objectivity, reliability. All parts of the generally accepted accounting principles. That comes into play with character as well. Thanks.
Can you repeat the question?
Absolutely. How will you ensure that your office operates independently and is not influenced by political relationships or personal connections?
Well, I can ensure that I am independent and do not play politics. Anyone who's read the newspaper knows that I will do the right thing for the taxpayers. I work for you guys. I do not work for anyone but the taxpayers. So at the end of the day, I will make the right decision based on the taxpayers. I will say that whenever I did work in the office, when I was not in this position, the audits were behind. They were. But since I've taken over as last October, all the audits are caught up and they are current.
I don't have any connections. I came out of left field. They were like, how did she get into office? My office, I've been a Republican for more than 40 years, so I am a strong Republican. I have never asked my staff what their party is. I don't ask the public when they come in. I just try to do the job of the recorder of deeds to the best of my abilities.
Thank you so much. All right, our next question, thank you for passing. Our next question is, how would you handle discovering financial irregularities and/or misuse of taxpayer funds?
Well, I could give you a perfect example because it happened when I was the mayor in the city of Washington.
There was a council member there that had a contract that was unbeknownst to the taxpayers. And that person was getting $25,000 a year in taxpayers' fund in a paycheck and never disclosed it to the taxpayers. So as the mayor, it was my job to confront the individual and to let the taxpayers know this is not proper. So if things like that happen within the office, first and foremost, we're gonna look into it. We're gonna make sure that the facts are the facts. If there has been fraud, waste, and abuse, then we will be going directly to the appropriate sources to make sure that the taxpayers' funds are secure, safe, and sound.
Question?
Yes, how would you handle discovering financial irregularities and/or misuse of taxpayer funds?
All those aspects of the financial auditing of the county controller's office all have pre-prescribed procedures on how to handle if those instances were to come up. All of those are already laid out for everybody in the offices before they get there, but you need somebody who's able to put that through the process once they are found. That's the most important part of the whole controller's office. Can you read the zeros are balanced out? Anybody can, but can you be the person that actually reports it when you actually found something? That's a good question you should have for the person that you're voting for.
I think that we all have to remember that auditors in any corporation also get audited. So the state comes in, they will audit. So as a controller, you better damn well have your stuff together because you're going to get looked at too. Once again, what's it come back to? It comes back to your integrity. It comes back to, and I'll repeat the generally accepted accounting principles, the reliability, the liability prospect. And full disclosure is vital because once again, you're electing us. Your tax dollars are providing the budget. That's crucial for the bottom line, and anyone who crosses that line will be held accountable. And they will be asked to explain first, and then actions will be taken appropriately. Thanks.
How would you handle discovering financial irregularities and/or misuse of taxpayer funds?
Well, I can speak firsthand on that because I currently have something going on right now in the county. We had a bank account opened without my knowledge. So I did seek action with my solicitor to put it back in the purview of my office. So we are currently doing an audit of that because obviously everything that comes through my office is taxpayer dollars. And there needs to be full transparency on what that money was spent for, what came in and what went out. And so we're currently actually doing that. So I'm willing to make that choice for the taxpayers because it's the right choice.
When I took office, there were no registers for the various accounts that I oversee. So all of my 4 accounts now have registers. I consulted with an accountant to make sure everything was done properly. I have not discovered any irregularities, but I thought maybe sloppy accounting practices, and I worked hard to correct those in our office. And we have a series of checks and balances even between my staff, where everything I do is checked, everything my staff does is checked, and I also balance the accounts to the penny every single day.
Being that I'm not the controller, but I do run an office, I have people in place that obviously put together a budget or a line item for me. We obviously make purchases, whether it be for firearms or whether it be for uniforms. If I would find any irregularities, I would obviously address the issue internally. If I would need any assistance, I think as the sheriff and not the controller, that's where I would turn it over to the controller's office, etc. So. Thank you. I'm sorry if you heard me. All right, yeah. Closer,
All right.
yeah.
I'm not sure where we're at in the panel. Who gets this? One down?
Yeah.
Okay.
This next question says, what specific qualifications or experience make you the most prepared to serve as Washington County Controller? And for the other two, just for your office.
What qualification gives you the most
what specific qualifications or experience make you the most prepared to serve as Washington County Controller?
I've mentioned this before, and I would say it would be probably at the Canton School Board being in tight working order with the Budget and Finance Committee to look over our budget and our audits that come in from the third-party auditors to look at exactly what we're spending. Are the efficiencies there for what we're buying? Are the prices the right for what we're buying? And are we getting our money's worth for everything, and is it working out? So that would be my number one quality.
I think for me, over the past 30 years, it's twofold. It's not so much just being an auditor, but being audited. So you understand both sides of the process, which I've done numerous times. So it's really important to know when you are doing an audit, you're understanding there's an element of nervousness and whatever for the people being audited. You also have to give them a chance to explain themselves, but at the same time, as like I said, just from repetition of audit after audit after audit, the findings, dealing with the federal government, dealing with state governments, I think that's where my background really comes into play for the office.
I would say my background is we are currently boots on the ground running. I currently run the office, so on day one, I would be able to just continue as normal. So we do have more than just auditing in our office, and I have overseen personally the payroll side of it and the accounts payable side of it. So we would just be basically boots on the ground running for first day one.
I know you all just want to hear from them, but I listed what I've done in the first term. If I wasn't confident that there was more that I can do for the office, I wouldn't be running again. And I think with my great staff that I have, we are a good team, we're working well together, and that's why I want to run another time for this position. Thank you.
I think it's important, if, as a leader, continue to move the needle. I inherited a good office. I just wanted to put my spin on it, and I do believe we had done that. 30 years in law enforcement. I've dedicated my life to law enforcement. My family has supported me for those 30 years. I cut my teeth as a sheriff's deputy in the mid-90s. I put some time in a patrol car, and I came back to the sheriff's office. And again, as I said earlier, I was very humbled to become the chief deputy, which I think prepared me very well to hold the office of sheriff. The next 4 years, I'm going to continue to move the needle. We're going to continue to get the folks trained, keep that policy and procedure manual up and running. We're going to continue to serve the courts and protect the parks and serve the residents of the county as I have the last 3.5 years. Thank you.
I believe I'm the only one up here with a master's degree, so I feel that I would definitely be able to provide change agent, new, innovative ways to improve the controller's office. As I said earlier, sometimes, after 20 years, you do the bare minimum at your job, and that's just any job. It's not just government alone. You know what you have to do before you can hold your purse on the door and have 1 foot out the door before it's time to go. So I feel that I'm most qualified because I do have 8 years of government experience going through the auditing process, not to mention being in leadership positions to provide ways to be fiscally responsible to ensure that the taxpayers weren't paying an exorbitant amount of taxes. So I feel that I am the most qualified sitting up here based on my experience, based on my knowledge and my education.
All right, thank you. Next question. This question says, what is your approach to implement fiscal policy set by the commissioners, which is legal, but which you might personally disagree with?
Well, I think law is law. So when something is agreed upon, that's generally with consensus. Whether you agree with that or not is really irrelevant. So you can't kick and drag your feet. You have to, but you can, when you meet with the people who have passed the said law, express where you disagree with them. So once that, in lack of a better word, law is in place, you have to educate the people that work for you. You have to follow the processes in place. And then continually over time, work to maybe better that or make change as the future comes. But once it's in place, you have to do your best to follow the policy.
I think your due diligence as controller is to verify that the policy that was passed is legal and following the rules of the law. So as controller, you have a solicitor. Each row office has a solicitor. So I would seek the legal counsel of my solicitor first to make sure everything with the policy was okay before I implemented that policy in my office. And then once I would implement the policy in my office, then I would inform my staff to follow that policy as long as everything was legal.
But can I ask one question? You did say that if it was in fact passed, it was already passed, correct?
Yeah, so the question says, what is your approach to implement fiscal policy set by the commissioners,
So it was set already then. So, okay.
which is legal?
So it's legal. It's already been legally checked. Okay. I just want to make sure I was getting across my point.
I'm trying to apply that to my office, sorry. To add to what Heather said, when we have questions, and we do all the time, we write them down in a book, and we can contact, of course, our solicitor, but we use the opportunity when we go to our conferences to speak to the solicitors for the Recorder of Deeds Association, and I take it very seriously, and I gather questions from my staff, and when we go there, it's an opportunity to speak with other recorders of deeds and with their attorneys so that we make sure that we are doing things according to law.
I too am going to try to spin the question. As an elected official, I don't make my own budget. I put together a budget pack each year that's presented to the Board of Commissioners. And then obviously the budget is returned over to me. We do our best to stay within that line item. For the last 3 years, we have been under budget. We've ran it to the line several times. As you know, obviously law enforcement equipment costs money, training costs money. But if there was something that I needed to purchase that was outside of that line item, I would obviously go through the necessary channels in the county, which would be the purchasing department, a capital request, etc. I wouldn't just make that purchase and expect the taxpayers and or the commissioners to pay that bill.
As Tony mentioned, the individual elected officials do make up their own budgets, and they turn those in, and they actually go through an interview process with the county commissioners, not necessarily them, but their staff. And so you can put in your requests, but ultimately it's up to the county commissioners of what you get. So even if it's not policy, you still have to follow the budget in which they give you. And perfect example, when I was elected in 2020, the budget for the clerk of court's office was $673,000. 673. You know how much it was when I left? 379,000. Yep, they cut my budget in half. So if they want to do that, they can. And another example is the commissioners put a policy out there where they relaxed the dress code for the county employees to allow them to wear jeans and khakis. But I got to tell you, in the clerk of court's office, you're in the courthouse, you're in a professional building. You cannot wear khaki jeans and khaki pants. So even though they were allowed to have that ability, they still chose to dress up appropriately for the office. So they knew that they were allowed to wear them, but in the same sense, they were being professional at it. So.
Question?
Yes, what is your approach to implement fiscal policy set by the commissioners, which is legal, but which you might personally disagree with?
This goes back to the question about how do you keep the controller's office unbiased and unpolitical, and that would be if you have procedure and policy set forth by the commissioners that you don't agree with how their direction is going, but everything checks out with your solicitor and everything else is procedural, that's going to go through. It's going to pass. That's not something the controller is going to finagle with or mess around with because the commissioners came up with something you don't like. That would have to be something that the voters would have to look at them, the commissioners themselves, and ask them, what direction are you taking this county?
Thank you so much. Okay, our next question. Have you accepted any donations to your campaign from any registered Democrats? If so, how much?
Well, let me make this very, very short. No.
No.
I'm running on 0 this time. I haven't spent anything, so no. I've had no donations.
I cannot tell a lie. My mom and dad are Democrats. And I think when I first announced for sheriff, they were the first $500 they kicked into me. But other than that, not to my knowledge. But respectfully, I don't come over all my numbers. But yeah, being transparent.
Mine have all been staunch Republicans.
Mine, throughout, since 2019, since I've ran, the only person I've collected a contribution from was actually WCRP. Everything else has been out of my pocket. So no.
Thank you so much. Okay, next question. What safeguards would you put in place to prevent conflict of interest that won't use taxpayer funds?
I'd say the safeguards that we currently have in the office is the reason you have a controller and you have a deputy controller is that you guys bounce things off each other before you take it to the next level. If you disagree with something or you come to an agreement, you can still check with your solicitor to make sure that it is something that you should be doing, but you always have your staff to go back to read. We also have county code that we refer to daily. So at the end of the day, if we're questioning something, my county code book actually has a ton of little tabbies on it. So we'll look at the book to make sure what the county code says, what the PA Constitution says. We always double check everything before we make a decision.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, the question says, what safeguards would you put in place to prevent conflict of interest that won't use taxpayer funds?
Nobody interferes with my office, so I can't imagine a scenario where this would be an issue. I can't adjust this to my office, so I really don't have an answer for that.
I would agree with Carrie. I know internally we use policy procedure, and I try to stay very consistent, and I ask my management team to stay consistent as well. For example, if a deputy does a great job, he gets a attaboy, but if a female deputy does a great job a month later, she gets a attagirl. So I think consistency, and in my realm of law enforcement, probably policy and procedure, keeps us down the straight and narrow.
Well, I'm not real sure what conflict I would have. I have the experience, I have the leadership abilities. I'm not related to anybody that is in the county, so there wouldn't be a reason for me that would need to outsource the auditing. And I gotta tell you right now, I plan on being in those elected officials' offices. I plan on working. I'm not gonna sit back and wait for that audit to come to my desk. Absolutely not. I will be at the magistrate's office. I will be in the pathonetary's office. I will be in the Register of Wills office. I will be working right alongside the auditors. So I'll be there as your working controller. And I can't see any conflicts coming my way.
Question?
Yes, what safeguards would you put in place to prevent conflict of interest that won't use taxpayer funds?
That sounds to me like that would be maybe a procedural change that you would be requesting. That might be something that you would maybe talk to someone at the Auditor General's department, or that you would have change in the office itself. But as far as conflicts of interest, a lot of that's already built into the procedures of the Controller's office itself. As a matter of fact, your audits from the Controller's office is mainly based on business ethics violations and conflicts of interest and looking for those. If you're bringing in $1 million and you write a check for $1 million to yourself, it's still zeroed out. Are the words the right way? Is it written out to the right person? Those conflicts of interest are already built into the system, and if you see any others that are coming about in that office, then there's always outlets to go up the ladder to say, hey, we need this down here too. It doesn't cost you any money, it just changes the procedures.
Once again, policies and procedures are designed and put in place to make things as black or white as possible, clear and concise. Anytime the gray matter appears, well, that's a flag. So you have to run that up the flagpole, run it to the commissioner's level, to up and above. But those policies and procedures are in place to keep things black and white. Like I said, about the potential other conflict of interest, as you all know, and some of these questions are directed. My brother, Ray, is the clerk of courts. And I had a meeting with Tom Flickinger to discuss things like this. Any audit I've been in, and I'm repeating myself, I know, if there is something like that, if someone is being audited and they know the auditor, if that's a relative, and corporations are big, and I will finish, is that it's not a big deal. There's no cost to that, to having someone look at numbers and sign off. I will gladly recuse myself from that and have someone else sign off. It's not a big deal in corporate America. It's not. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this is the last audience question that we have for the night. Thank you, you've all been doing wonderful up here, and thank you to the audience for all the questions that you submitted. The last question is, how long have you been a registered Republican?
Over 40 years. It's the only party I've ever belonged to, and it was when I first went with my dad to go register to vote. He said it's time. I've been a Republican ever since.
I believe I switched over to be Republican 2011, 2012.
Well, I'm happy to report I'm a Democrat walkaway. I was a Democrat mayor in the city of Washington, and I chose to walk away from the Democrat Party and become Republican. And I believe that would have been in 2016 because my term ended in 2015 as mayor. So I'm a proud walkaway. And I'm proud to be a conservative Republican. I was an independent prior to being Democrat. So in order to get elected in the city of Washington, you have to be a Democrat. It's just the way it goes. You can see Joe DeThomas. He was a long-standing Republican in the Republican Party. He had to switch in order to be on council. So it's unfortunate, but that's the way politics is in the city of Washington. But yes, I'm a walk away. I don't know which way this goes.
That away.
Ever since I was young, and in the 80s, Ronald Reagan was a Republican, I thought of myself as being a Republican when I was ready to sign up for it. And when I turned 18, I did become a Republican, and I've been a Republican for 27 years now. And if anybody else has been in that same boat, you realize we've been waiting since Ronald Reagan to find Donald Trump. How long have we waited?
When I graduated high school, I was what you would call a Union Democrat. And then over the years, I had been an independent for a majority of those years. But I think with the influx of gas and oil, with the instability of the left fiscally, about 4 years ago, I went from independent to Republican.
When I originally registered to vote when I was 18, I was registered as a Republican. But as many know, when I started working, I worked for Mike Namey, who was a huge Democrat. The county climate of the office was different back then. You kind of switched for what your boss was. So I did switch. I was a registered Democrat. I was always under Mike. And then when he left, I did switch back after that.
I would like to thank all of you candidates so much. If we
Thank
could give
you.
them a round of applause for tonight.
Thank you. Nice job, guys. Good job.
We'd like to thank all of you again for attending tonight's forum. We wish these candidates the best of luck. Please remember to tell all of your friends, your family, your neighbors to vote on May 20th. Like we've talked about before, these municipal elections are typically very low turnout. So it's important that you get out and vote. I think I saw statistics just today that there are around 10,000 mail-in ballot requests currently out there. I think 8,000 of them-ish are from Democrats, 2,000-ish from Republicans. So please make sure that you're getting out and you are voting in this election. And please feel free to stick around. The candidates will be mingling around if you'd like to ask them any further questions. Thank you again for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Good job.